Hi everyone, welcome back to the classroom here. We're going to do the year, last week I promised you, so now we're going to do it, the European robin. And I have found a really cool picture of this kookaburra. I love this bird down in Australia. I used to spend a lot of time down in Australia. I've made like 18 trips down there, and we used to go down on vacation up in Shoal Bay, in the north part of New South Wales. And there were some kookaburras there at the house we rented, and I would feed them every morning, all of my fishing bait, all of the small fish and stuff that I had. They were a lot of fun. Very friendly bird, wonderful Australian bird. So we're going to do that next time. But we're going to do the Australian robin this time. And I have a couple of really nice pictures. I love the profile of this one. Matter of fact, I sketched this one out. And but I love the feathering on this one, and so I love some of these colors, these brighter colors on this one, but I just love the feathering detail on this one. Both of these are free images off of Google, so you know, you can find them. There's a lot of wonderful free images out there that you can use. Okay, so let's get into it. I've sketched this one down. This is an 11 by 11 inch board. It is my MDF board that I like to use for these paintings. I gave it a coat of a light gray color, which is made from black and white and a little bit of yellow, or you can gray, you know, take a little bit of red and a little bit of blue, make a green, a gray color, add just a touch of yellow to it to warm it slightly. I think I'm going to do some kind of roses and stuff here. I just love this bird though, and then I'm going to probably put some colors and stuff into the background as we get going here, so we'll do that. Let's talk about the palette here for a second. This is my classical palette that I like to put out when I am finding my way through a bird. I've never painted one of these European robins. This is Hansa yellow, Darulite yellow, yellow oxide, naphtha red light, burnt sienna, pine green, phthalo blue with some red violet splattered in it when I squirted it out. I squirted it out sometimes in the tubes. When you go squirt out a color, there'll be an air pocket in there if I don't get rid of it, and I squirted that out, and it went there, and it went down over here to the bird as well. So I'm already moving color a little bit in my palette. This is quinacridone, so red violet, quinacridone, sapphire, phthalo blue. And I put out some sapphire just because I love that as a real nice intermediate. Anytime I've got to make some grays, I love the grays, especially when I'm landscape painting, between sapphire and burnt sienna. If you don't have sapphire, sapphire is just a mixture of phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, black, and white. It's a grade blue leaning just a little bit to the blue violet. And I think I'm going to start that out here on my background here. I'm going to push some of this color in because I'm going to put some streaks of the phthalo in. So I'll use this one here first. I'll put a little bit of extender. So I have my extender out here in a little cap that'll slow down the drying time. But I don't really want to get it too wet because I'm an acrylic painter. I like to paint the birds and stuff with acrylic. But we'll put this over here. I like just to move this color around, splash it around a bit. We'll back it back out so I don't have to resketch that bird again. And all I did when I sketched him, you can see I make just a circle and then just a slight oval right here, and he's really easy to sketch. It's not difficult. Let's put a bit of, I like this other blue, and let's just try right around where he is, where this is going to be. I want this blue because this blue green. This is phthalo is a blue green, is a nice, really almost complement to what the bird is going to be here today. So I'd like to see that out here. We'll probably put some more additional bit of that around. I don't want to stop it right here at him, so I want to carry this through, and maybe we'll just carry that right through like that, right through that edge there. But I do want some of this lighter sapphire and stuff as well in here. So let's just push that around, let that just kind of model in here. I love to work the backgrounds and try different things. And, you know, especially today as a selling artist, I like contemporary looks. Contemporary looks, you know, when you spend just a little bit of extra time in your background and throw some contemporary looks in there, it really, those of you that are, you know, that write to me all the time, it's like, how do you become a successful selling artist? Contemporary looks. You got to get your colors and everything up a little bit more contemporary. And that was hard for me, being so many years as a decorative artist and painting along the traditions, you know, traditional lines of, I don't want to say traditional lines. I don't like to use that word. I like to use the word historical lines, painting more historical lines, and that was always quite a bit different than what people like today. Now, so let's key off some colors here, okay? So I love this, and let's make a plan, okay? We have such a bright area here. It's kind of like the cardinal when we painted that cardinal. We don't want to go in here with an undertone, because this color, Dark Light Yellow, is just like perfect for what he is right in there. But Dark Light Yellow is a semi-transparent pigment, and it is very weak, and so it cannot go over any kind of undertoning here. So we're going to start out with some lights. We'll probably underpaint this color right in through here with light that will really give a nice glow to his coloring there. Because I may want to do some of this type of undertoning here with my siennas. And if I get that sienna, the Dark Light cannot win. Dark Light cannot win against sienna. You try to put it up on top, you can't. You have to paint back out with white, because this is a very weak semi-transparent, but it's a wonderful color. Absolutely lovely color. So a lot of times the color that I'm going to choose, and since that's coming out here, is going to choose the technique that I'm going to use with the bird. And so I'm going to start out here really light. Now I can do the blue violet. You see that blue violet, that blue gray that's here. It's just part of the picture there, because you have two birds here with it. One is a little bit more violet. The other one is a little bit not quite as violet, but they both have this nice warm orangey kind of tone into the grays here. So we'll be making that grays from our oranges and our blues, and you know, lean our blues towards a blue violet slightly here. But in this areas of the bird here, we can do a regular Premier Coup type technique, but we've got to change our approach up here, up into the front part of the bird, for what we, you know, how we're going to paint it. So we'll set those pictures right out here off to the side. I'll refer to them, and I'm going to start out with here taking some of those yellows, and yellow maybe a little bit to the orange side, and let's just take some soft versions of that and move that color through our background here. And we'll toss a little bit of blues and stuff like that into that. We'll push those colors in, because these are going to be the colors that's in the bird, but we want a softer version of it slightly, so we'll add just a bit of our light blue, which will tone the color here. Let's just push, though, a little bit of that coloring through. This is what a good contemporary artist will do. It carries those colors all through. You'll see little splashes of those particular colors. Let's go down. I'm going to grab my number 8, and I'm going to grab I'm going to just set up a little bit of the rose here, maybe a little bit more of an orange onto the inside here. And let's set up, I think I'm going to do these, I can see them in my mind, these soft orange, yellow-orange roses, but I want to keep them really soft with some gray color. You hear my dog sitting right back here, right there. She's just got a scratch. So I always have my dogs in here filming with me, and the two sisters, the two labs, sit in here with me, and then my other older dog, he likes sitting in on my desk in the offices over there. So, but you always will hear the labs. They are always a little bit noisy. But so I'll take some of my orange with some light. We'll gray it, just a bit of the blue in here so it's not real bright, because I want the bird to be my plan is to have the bird the brightest of all of the colors there, so they don't compete with each other. Here, we'll push this one right out here. I want to do some branches and stuff like that. All that kind of neat art stuff here. So we'll go around here. We'll push that in here. Here we go. So a center. So we get those two roses in there. That position of that one going down is not probably what I want to do. So let's take that. It's pointing down, and they're pointing here, which is not really the greatest way. Let's take this off at an angle up here like this. So those two are both kind of lifting up towards the bird a bit, and that'll probably be a little better. Let's take some soft version of this right into the back here. Give an idea of a rose there. Something over here. We don't know. Just some nice color there. That'll work. And while we're here, working in an area, let's put in a soft green, burnt sienna and pine green, a little bit of my blues. Let's drop some of those colors in. This is just a little extender because I want this to slide around a bit. So this is just to get some of these colors so my eye is starting to see them. Sometimes I'll put leaves in, you see, and then I'll work those colors of those leaves and stuff right into the bird and stuff too, if I need harmony. So there's a lot of reasons to take a real quick, like alloprema blocking in type of technique first, so you can start seeing colors everywhere, and that sometimes is a good idea to do here, especially if you're lost. Part of your plan can always be to push that in. Let's put a nice stem line out here for this robin to sit on, and drop that right down here. Right down. Some of these roses and stuff can come off of that. I like just to put in stem lines and movement lines because it just gives some nice movement. I usually underpaint them. In other words, I don't give them too much detail. I used to, but now I paint them relatively quickly, and I follow a lot of the impressionist kind of feelings philosophies that they have when painting, and I enjoy those. That we leave a lot of areas that are just undefined, and I like those kinds of things. It gives the viewer a better chance to find the shapes, find the things that they want to see. And so I relax my compositions a lot. In other words, I don't do a lot of details into them so that the viewer can imagine what those objects are. And it's really kind of funny, and sometimes people will see different things, and it's I've done several paintings, and different people have seen different things, and some of it's not even what I was planning on, but it's really a lot of fun. Okay, so we've got it kind of set up, a little bit of our colors through there. You can see some of the colors that we're going to work with, and the only thing that I have not added is that we got that blue-violet, so I've gone to a blue-green here. We haven't added any of that blue-violet, and so you might, and that blue-violet's going to be coming on that bird, so you might want to just make a few statements of it somewhere in here right now, just so you're starting to move the color. So take some phthalo blue, some red violet, or you can use quinacridone, make yourself a nice blue violet. Let's get it a little bit lighter here. And sometimes I will, add another little flower in there, a different little color. Sometimes I'll add it to the cool side of a rose so you see some of that coming through, or just whisper that color, into my painting. So I'll know that that will be a color that I have moved here. So I'm a really big advocate of harmony. And, when you increase that harmony in your painting, you don't just isolate colors, you move colors. And when you increase that harmony in your painting, more people like it. So something to consider. So let's put just a bit of that violet, even just kind of softly whispered there into the background. That's kind of nice. Let's put a bit of that whispery color right through there. I like that. Just splashes of lines of color. Okay, now we're ready. We've got a nice setup here. We're ready to go ahead and do the bird. First, I'm going to take some acrylic, just white, and I'll come right into this area, his breast area right here, and I'm going to pre-paint right where that diarylide, where I'll be using a lot of that diarylide here to set his tone. I'm going to go very opaque with it, and we're going to let that right there dry up. Now see, I'm thinking right into here, so that white, see, it goes through, if you go through Chippendale techniques, grissaing techniques and stuff, but basically a Chippendale type technique, you underpaint with the white so that it causes a glow, because light comes down through your color layer, hits the white, and reflects back. White is a reflecting of all colors, okay? And so if you want a color to appear brighter and stuff, you underpaint it with the white, and it will always appear brighter than when it is when it's not. Okay, so I always underpaint if I want something to really stand out. You can always take it down. You're underpainting and stuff. You can always take it down and soften it out. But if you if you don't have it there, sometimes you have to opaque up, and if I have to opaque this color yellow, I'm going to lose its intensity and its glow. So I don't want to opaque that up at all. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go down. I love to paint the birds a little bit more painterly with my number 4. So there's some beautiful warm colors down in through here, and then that cool violety color. Do you see that? So we need to start out, and I think I can get to that. Just my yellow oxide and my burnt sienna, get that nice warm undertone color. That's what I'm looking for, is that color right up underneath there. So, and it's going to hit it pretty good. And I'm going to start with the warm. Now, there's all kinds of reasons, I say that in a lot of my classes. When you're warm, cool painting, and I'm a big advocate of warm, cool painting. But it's if you have an opportunity, you start with the warm rather than the cool, because it's a lot easier to cool a warm than it is to warm a cool. Once I get that cool color on the painting, it's hard to get it warmer back up if you've made a mistake. So you always work from, I try, not always, I hate to use the word always, but I try to work from warm to cool. So yellow oxide, a little burnt sienna in that looks pretty good there. And let's get our value scale out here too so you guys can see that. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this nice warm color right up here, and I'm going to put it right up at the top of his head, curving down. And I kind of foreshortened him just a little bit on the drawing, so I turn his head just a bit. I like them to foreshorten where you see some of the forehead, and the beak comes down into the head just a little bit, turns them. That gives them just a touch more interest, in my opinion. So rather than just doing a straight profile, let's put a bit of the streaking burnt sienna into that as well. A touch here and there. And now when we get out of this diarylide yellow area, we can come back up here and push some of that tone back up in here, pushing up and down, round like that. I like to leave some of that modeling of the color interest in there. I like that. There's a brighter little hit right up here by the front, so I'm going to put in a little bit of white here first. And to keep that soft, I'll just push that right into that yellow, but that's going to allow me to reflect some color back up in there, and which I probably will do. Let's get this nice warm burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow oxide, and we'll paint most of this out, but let's push, with the cooler colors, let's put in a bit of that warm underpainting here, right there like that, and there, that's going to be good. And then I'll come back in here now. I'll start a little bit darker here and push some of that darker burnt sienna in. Now again, most of this will paint out or leave little touches of it. This is just to get the little hits, but we're going to be mostly cool as we're painting that in there. Nice warm and a little bit grayed here, so even a bit of this violet into this. Let's go down onto his tail here. Nice grayed warm color. Push that. I don't always like to paint detailed tails because you're moving away from your center of interest and stuff, and that can take away from your painting really, really easy. So I don't always like to do that. Let's come in here, and so we have this light edge here. This will be part of his chin and stuff coming down, and so I've lost some of my sketch there, so I'm going to be just putting him in there. I'm going to take a bit of my grade, bit of orange right down here. So when you look at this stuff, and it's really kind of a cooler color here, but you see you have slightly a darker grayed orange there to the brighter orange, and we need that to help foreshorten that face, coming about halfway down his beak here. So we need that grayed one, and that could be a little more violet into it. So I'm going to mix up a bit more violet right here. A bit more of my violet. Put a bit of light into that. And let's drop that right in there. And just go over that just a bit there. We'll adjust it a little bit more, but we'll start right there. So we get a little bit of that violet color. Let's take that violet color here, and a little bit of violet, a little light here, maybe up and around maybe a 7 or so. Where am I? Yep, right at a 7. So it'll dry down to a 6, so we want to lighten this up just a bit more, maybe up to an 8. And I'm going to take some of this violet and just pull right across some of this and let some of the orange show. Just put a little bit of that violet in. There's a fly. God, yeah, the dogs got outside, so they do that. These, like I said in the other videos, here we don't get them in here very often, but the dogs have figured out how to open up the side door there and go outside, and they do that. But they, like I said in one of the earlier ones, they're not very good at shutting the door afterwards. So the door is probably open. And it's letting that little fly in. And so we'll put some of that violet. See, we'll skip some of that violet in there. Let's put a lighter dose of that violet right down here by his eye. Now I'm going to go into a detailed brush and detail and feather him up a bit more. But when you look at that, see, there's a violet there, see? And then there's a lighter violet, and you'll get some of that orange and stuff in there. So we'll probably play back and forth with these just a bit here as we start setting up some of these colors here, which I like to do. Let's set a little more orange and maybe a touch of that burnt sienna coming up underneath the beak right there. But we want to be able to leave some light that plays up against that, so we'll push just a bit of that there, a bit towards his eye there. And I'm going to go to my number 4 here, and my number 4 my number 4 round, and do a little detailing there on the beak. I'm going to start with that lighter orange and then go to the violet. So he has a lighter orange underneath his beak here on the underside, and I pull and streak just a bit. I don't like to be super solid. We're going to go to a lighter violet at the top, and then we'll work some darks in here. So then I'll start a darker violet here, my phthalo. Could probably get it with my sapphire and the violet here as well. We'll go a little darker. I like to model all that up in my brush so it's not always one color here. I just offloaded a little bit so I got a nice point to come in and push a bit of that on the top of his beak. I like to paint their beaks so that they get a lot of interest to them, because it's a very interesting part of the bird. I'm going to tap a little light into that, come back in right there. There we go. There's a darker mark of violet underneath, just underneath the beak there. There we go. And so see, taking just a few minutes and working the colors, you can get a lot of interest. Let's get a little light white model that. Tap it. Don't mix it. You'll get one color. We like to have a bit of a model, so sometimes it comes off a little different. See, I get a little different color there. Just tapping that lighter color there. Let's model it a little different here, and maybe pull down just a touch to put some depth to the beak there. Let's go into some burnt sienna right here. Burnt sienna and a little bit of my orange, and tap that around. That's pretty good. I like that burnt sienna and orange there. Here, let's push a bit of this to the other side of the head. So what happens here is the beak goes into his face here a little bit. That's what we call the foreshortening of it. So his beak goes into his face just a bit here, and we'll take some of this nice yellow, tap that through there. But I really want to bring in just a bit of this lighter violet right here, right there. And now we can go more of that darulite, maybe just a touch of red into it. Takes very little here. Let's work right over that white because it's dry now. You can see that color gets nice and bright here. Got a nice bright, it's easy for that darulite to get nice and bright in there. We'll take a real soft violet here, and we'll come down just a bit into that edge. Don't let them mix too much. You'll get a gray real quick, and we want to be able to control the brightness of our colors here, so we don't want them colliding too much here. Let's get a bit more of that darulite. Love darulite. It's just really weak. It can't stay on its own very long. Let's push that right into there. Okay. That's kind of pretty. Getting some of the violets here. Do this, just kind of streak a little bit of the violets in the... Don't streak them too much because that violet will eat right through the very weak orange. So just a bit. Let's get some nice... First let's do... I picked up some blue, but first let's put a bit of burnt sienna into his eye here. And that blue came off too much. A little bit of burnt sienna. I like that warmth. Now we'll go blue and some red violet together. here. Let's put that eye in, and it's just a touch pointed up towards the front here. So we get a couple colors there into his eye. He's got a tiny catch light here that I really like. See that tiny little shine, that tiny catch light there. A little light violet. And let's just sneak that in there. Now that's not going to stick there until that, I got a lot of paint in there. So it's not going to stick until I give it a second to dry. So we'll go work the eye ring here. Lighter eye ring, I like his eye ring here. Lighter eye ring. I like the eye rings on birds when you see them on certain species of them because they really just kind of pops the eye out. So I'll put a little bit of lightness right there, just tap that around a bit. It goes around the back and then narrows down to nothing coming around the front there. So we'll do that, and then we'll let some of these orange, we'll get some of our nice orange and some of these violets and stuff and kind of work those together right in here. Let those colors, a bit of those colors come out here. That lighter violet, let's restate some of that right in there, right up to the edge of that eye ring, right there. That's good. We can drag just a bit of that through up here on his head. That works. I want to get that. This is one thing I do with the 4 is I take a bit of stiff paint in it like this white, and I flatten it out here. I flatten it like that. That gives me, you can see it gives me a razor sharp edge there. Do you see that? And I'm going to use that edge to just kind of go right along the edge of that division line of the beak there and put in just a touch more interest. Let's go a little lighter orange here and pull down so we get a better version of the side of his face there. That's better. So we get a better shot at that, just that side there of his face. We'll pull that down here just a bit more. Kind of shear that off. There we go. That's not so bad. Now let's take some that orange with some burnt sienna. I'm going to add a little extender. It's not for blending. It just causes the color to slide. And I like some of these darker colors up underneath. It's almost like his cheek area here. And he gets a lot of color pulling right in there. And even some more red into that as it comes right down through here. But it all depends on the bird that you're looking at, the light source, because they change colors depending on the light and how the light's hitting them and stuff. So I'll add a bit of yellow, even a little hint, so that'll give this starry light a bit more power. We'll pull down through just a touch to get some of that feathering there. And I want to restate that violet again. And when you're restating violets, always mix it up again so it's a little different. Sometimes it leans a little bit more to the red, sometimes a little bit more to the blue. I'm going to add a little burnt sienna in there. A little sapphire in there. I love that. That's a beautiful color. Sometimes tone it down. A little bit of your oranges, a little bit of burnt sienna. You'll see. Look at that lovely toned violet right there. That's really in his colors. See that? Those colors there are really those colors that are in him right there. So, but I want to do a little feathering here, so I want to model this up a bit, and I want to pull some of the turning angle of his head with this, so we see some of those that angle there. And I want to leave him a little bit more painterly, featherly, like that other one. So I'm going to leave these strokes where you see him just a bit more here. Just like that. And I like that. And I'll play back and forth between those lights and like your a little bit more burnt sienna. Set that back. Set those feathers in like that. And we can do a lighter, and we can give more power here with some white. We'll add just a touch of white, you know, because I really like the feathering on this guy here. So I'll start to feather him up just a bit here with that slightly lighter, but change the color a bit. Change the color. Don't feather all with the same color, because that'll just destroy everything that we've done. We like to change color, so don't paint too long with one color. Sometimes you get into it, you know, and it's hard to stop, and then you've added the same color all the way across his face, and that'll flatten him out, so you don't want to do that. We want to get a nice interest here, so, you know, only take, you know, maybe 3 strokes, and then get out of there and go get another color. There. Or working just the hairs, you can work a little bit more, but change those colors. Here, change those colors. That creates this lovely interest. Let's put a little bit more light. I like this one that has a bit more light right up over his eye. There. There, like that. That's kind of pretty in there. And you can get some more light violet in there to work alongside of that as well. Let's get a touch of the concentrate up along the beak here again. Get some burnt sienna darks. That creates that contrast right there where the beak is entering in towards the face. Here, maybe a line or two right in there. I like to work many small tones right around the face. That just gives so much interest. Just little light touches there. Now, that eye is set up, so we should be able to take a light violet, little catch light. There, let's go up just a value or two. A little bit lighter. There. And I painted too much there. I got it too big, so I'll take a little blue, maybe a little violet, push into it to small it down just a touch, right where I want it. So that looks pretty good. Now let's get, see, I like this coloring, but the light is not quite the same there, but I like that coloring there. But we're going to go down towards the breast area here with this orange, with these oranges. So first I'm going to do it with the Darulite. Preserve the Darulite here first. Okay, and we'll go over Darulite, maybe a little bit of that red in this. And you can see how bright this is now, see? Boom, boom, boom. This is my number 4. Right in through there. You can see it gets a nice bright little coloring in there. We can add some of a bit of the reds in there. So just a bit of that through like that. We can have a touch of white. Now that will tone it as well. So keep a lot of Darulite in it, but a little bit of light. See how it's not quite as bright when you add that white? Because white is, and a lot of people don't know it, but white is a toner. And you add white to a color, you actually drop its intensity. Because white is all colors. Here. We'll put some of that right in there like that. That's good. We'll let that. I'm going to take just a bit of that light. Just whisper a little bit of that through his head there. Just to carry that color up. Yeah, I see, I like that. And you see, that's nice and bright compared to the rose we did earlier. So your eye goes in towards him a bit more. Let's add some burnt sienna to this. And come down a little cool, a little bit darker right down over here. Okay, that's good. And then we're going to pick up those, and we could probably just travel a little bit of that down there like that, because the violets will paint it out. Now we'll go into our beautiful violets over here. Let's go just a touch lighter over here to the side. Here. We'll come up underneath, pull some of those down. That cools that area. Model some of this through just a bit. Don't want to paint too much more than that without changing color. That's a big area I just put on there. We're going to go lighter. Very much light. Right up here, and just walk right up. See how that white takes out that dialite really easy. Here. Boom. Here like that. And a little bit light. We'll look for some feathering here. This is where I like to do larger, touch and lift off to do the larger body feathers. The look of the larger body feathers there. Let's put a bit of that warmth right down here at the bottom. Just push up into that a bit. There. That's good. Let's hit just a few areas with that mottled warmth. Right up through here. We'll go back and revisit some darks and stuff. But first I want to put a even lighter yet stroke right in there like that. That kind of builds his front of his chest up in his body. I want to leave it as painterly as possible. Just boom, boom, boom here. And leave those stroke marks out there like that, because that power of that stroke will cause it to advance forward, see? So we can set that into the body, a little dialite right in there, just on the edge. That'll set it to the body, but I want to leave that powerful light. See, they've got powerful light strokes right there. And look at the one on here on this one. It's powerful. It's coming forward, and that would be the artistic stroke. So if there's anything that I really want to push texture and stuff like that, it's right in there. And I'll leave that right there like that. Even leave some of that texture and stuff through there. Because that just gives a nice little, and see, I like those little do. And I have to do those really quick, because if I think about it too much, they get really stiff. If I just do them, they get nice. They work. If I think about it too much, they don't work. So I'm going to restate that lighter little bit of violet down that side. There. That works. Okay, now let's get some of that contrast, that beautiful contrast. It's got this deeper violet here. Some of my blues, quinacridone here. Right up on the forward part of his mantle of his wing here. Let's get some of that in. Maybe a bit of that burnt sienna into that, just to gray that, just a touch. Don't want them to be purple as much as just a nice dark violet. Let's go darker yet. Right up here. Right up along his back. Let just a bit of those. See, we're going to have just that. You can look there ever so close, and it's hard to see in the photo, but the cameras are big, but just a bit of that burnt sienna picking up in there. So I want to work that burnt sienna and a bit of that dialite. I want to work just a bit of that through there as well. But the power is going to come from this. This is going to paint out everything. There's no way anything with dialite in it is going to be able to paint out a violet color. It just won't happen. So you have to plan where you're going to use the dialite first, and then use a little restraint and be careful with your violets, because once you get them on, you can't get that dialite back up unless you underpaint it with white again to take it out. So let's use a chisel of our brush. Let's get that nice idea of that wing tip right there. And yeah, there's a nice deeper stroke right down through here. Nice dark right in there. Just a real beautiful bird. Beautiful bird. Let's get our violets into our body here underneath. A little bit darker, but a little bit grayer. So let's add a bit of burnt sienna and a bit of diarylite into that. See how that grays, it warms it just a touch. And that's really a lot of the colors you see coming here underneath him. And I'm just going to feather him up a bit. I like how his little feathers run in all different kinds of directions. So you just kind of pull like that. Run the feathers all different kinds of directions. And we'll lighten up our violet here. Let's just pull a bit. Probably should do this with the 4 round. Would probably look really nice as well. Like it when I do that. Let's take a bit of that, maybe just a bit of this lighter grayed version of it. I like to use the chisel. Again, I don't like to get perfect lines here for the primary flight feathers. I like to keep them just a touch blurred. That because it's lines that take away from his face, and I want to keep everything, more towards his face. So that works pretty nice. I'm kind of contemplating here, do I take a light violet and push that right by his eye, a little lighter here. Push that right by his eye just because I have that texture there that allows me a bit of texturing there up around his face, and that just pops his face up just a touch more. Let's maybe read just a bit of that pulling in here. I'm going to rinse my brush out here, and just with a wet brush, just take off the edge of that. See how sometimes you can lift off that edge, control that color that a little bit easier. That gives just a bit more. I kind of like that. Yeah. Just a bit of that kind of violets, different tones there coming through there. I like that. That worked pretty well. And let's get the more of that grayed. A bit more burnt sienna, a bit more yellow. Get the base of his tail body there, his tail area. Maybe lighten that up. There's some that just kind of pull down here. Again, gives that kind of feathering motion there. There's a band of light around his tail here. And again, I don't want to get too complicated with it, but we'll put just a bit of that. Don't want to get too precision out there onto the tail. Now, here's the other thing. Is like I could, it'll drop the intensity a bit, but let's put a bit of yellow, diarylite and Hansa, and some white, and use my number 4 round here. Just a bit more of a feathering in there. A bit more of an orange. So a little more diarylite, touch of red. Right up through here. That tiny bit of white into that, gives a touch more power to your color. It also, opaques it, so it gives more power to there, but it also tones it. So we'll just feather some of this just a bit. When you're doing small little feathers, you can do more than 2 or 3 strokes. When you're just adding little lights and feathers. Here, bit onto the beak right there, area of his beak. Let's intensify. Touch of yellow right back behind his eye ring there. That looks kind of nice here. And I like to keep them kind of painterly, and he's a little muddled right in there, so I'm going to take a orange, more of an orange, and pull down just right in there. There we go. And I could put a tiny, tiny bit of burnt sienna and red into that. So it goes just a bit darker here. There we go. Yeah, that gives a good coloring to them, I think, as well. There. And a bit of the violet here. I'm just going to stroke across the, because it's got a bit of a shadow there, right there. Just a touch, and I'm not going to do too much back there because he's got a good look to his face, and that's what I really want to preserve there. I'm going to take some of that brighter. Boy, I added that extender to that, and it's still wet, so let's just not use that color, though. We'll mix it again. Maybe just a touch to the violet here. There we go. Just, you know, like I said, clean up around their face just a bit. And I usually do it towards the end of the painting, but clean up around the face just a bit, and it always pops them off. It just pops them off a little bit more. There. Yeah, that's kind of capturing his look stuff there. You could have a bit more shadow at the top and the foreshortened area up there. A bit more of the violet. Even do it with the corner of my number 4 here. It turns his face there just a bit. There, like that. He's kind of a little cutie there. And yeah, just an edge. That violet right there. That's good. Now, let's use the chisel of our brush, or you can use the point of the 4 there. Let's give him some burnt sienna legs here. Like he's grabbing on to that. And maybe some light touches there. I do them real quick, not too much to it. And, you know, I want to lift that beak off just a touch more right in there. Do that with the shadow. Let it contrast the beak there, a little burnt sienna. That's better. Let it just, that pops his beak off just a touch more. And let's use, get a bit more definitive here, a little more definition to the top of that one shadow. And that will pop that a bit more too. There, that's better. See, it gives a little bit more portrait look to him. Pops that off just a touch more. A bit of the shadow there. Okay, now, so that's pretty good for him. My tail's a little weak, but I kind of want to leave it weak. I could take some of that violet, softer violet here, and put that side, the edge of the tail there. And I think I'll just kind of maybe leave it at that, because I like the light bouncing around and stuff on him. If I was going to do him more painterly, I'd maybe build through my section through here, you know, put some textured strokes. He really come forward with some of those textured strokes, you know, but I think it captured the orange of him pretty well. And you don't want to do too much, because that will die. I mean, his intensity will die down as you start to paint more. So he's got about as bright as you can get him right in there right now. So let's paint the roses and stuff with some burnt siennas and reds, and we won't go back up into here too much. We can do a little bit in the front, but mostly our yellow oxides, which is going to be a softer color. Let's go with some light here. We'll make a nice soft light to yellow, soft rose color. We'll go a little bit, probably a little bit more creamy color here in just a minute. First, we'll just put some of this light on and start building up our color here. Before we go decide on the brightness, we'll go light first. Because the rose is bigger than the chest on the bird, and so every little stroke you put on there is going to get huge and take away from the bird. So let's put the side of the rose in here from the bowl. Let's turn the lighter edge here. Let's just paint out right here so we don't have to do that foot on the bird here. So we'll push that petal in there. Push a little more light right into this. And we'll do this front edge of the rose there. Always leave that bowl shadow. You like to paint the roses. We have the challenges of the 30-day roses and stuff to refine your rose painting skills. Let's keep this soft here. Go. And we'll get a little bit more light. I really don't see, maybe a touch. And let's just see what happens. I know it's going to, well, we can tone it here with some light. So it's not quite as bright, but it will carry the color, his color, down into that rose. Just a bit more, see? But not, because we're adding the white to it, it won't get quite as bright as what it does on him. I'm always very careful about that. Then we can go a little bit lighter. Right there into the front. So a nice soft one. Let's put a little edge right on the corner here and just pull in. That'll bring a, you do that little edge like that, that'll cause that one to go back and this one to come forward. So edging techniques, petal edging techniques, you'll find that into the 30-day challenge on the roses. So if I want to put some edges here to make some petals and stuff come forward, let's go back to our soft. Let's thin it out here and just let some of this, matter of fact, let's grab some of this nice light violet color here. Let's start adding that to the back side of the rose here. So you start to pick up some of those colors there coming across, but softer. Here, leave some of that yellow in there. And let's just let that just go soft there like that. Maybe a bit more light warmth here to finish off this edge of the rose. Now, a lot of times, that center of that rose and the bottom bowl shadow there is really soft. I could do a touch more in there, even cool it just a touch. But I don't want to get it too much. We'll leave a burnt sienna with just a bit of that quinacridone into that. And just lift back out. And I'm watching this against the bird because each time I stroke, it's going to take away from the look of the bird. So I want to be kind of careful. And I'll watch this right up here, bull shadow, and lift off to let that the warmth of the rose take up there. And I think that's probably enough. If I go any darker, it's going to take away from that bird. Here's your ultimate dark, though. You know, that's your ultimate dark. So, but we could put some of that in our other areas. I don't really want it in a rose because the rose will, I mean, it'll win against the bird if it gets too big. So I'll put some of that same cool right down there. Let's go with that nice warm yellow oxide and light. Let's push some of that right around here for this side. Maybe right up in front of his tail there. Right around the back here of this rose. So you see I've worked into the kind of the circular motion there. Let's put some softer petals out so then we can do some more and brighter petals up into the front here. That works. Now let's take a touch of that Darulide and a bit of white, which will tone it down just a bit, but it'll get some of that bird's colors right into that rose right there. And we'll go a touch lighter. Let's edge here. Push that edge of this petal in right towards that bird, so it's kind of like pointing right at the bird there. Another little edge maybe right there. It helps put it right up in front of that bird's tail. A bit of the edge here pulling across the top here. I like to push with my finger and stuff to soften it out. And then we'll add just a bit here. Let that, now let's get over to this violet too. Let's get some of that in there. Softer colors to pick those up. It's kind of pretty. Here. Let's take even softer, lighter, more violet, quick. Push the colors around. Don't do too much back there. Push those in. Maybe just a bit of an edge. Doesn't need very much. There to say there's a back rose back there. I could come in with a lighter, even more violet edge right here to push this one right up in front of that one. So there, like that. And that's a bit too much. So I'll take some of it out. There. Now the other thing that you can do though, you know, so you don't always think about, that's what I call positive painting. Don't always think about doing it in the positive there where you're creating the petal, because you can do it into the, like I showed you in the 30-day roses and stuff like that. And the other thing to consider is the negative. So we take a burnt sienna and maybe a bit of the red violet and green here. Put just a touch of extender into this, and you can paint around to create the back petals like this and pull out here. But you know how much of that edge you leave, that's up to you. But see, that also gets some of our dark in there. But you can use those to help generate more of an edge, a contrast of an edge here. Let's just take some of this and just pull down just a bit here. I like those kinds of things like that. Down like that. So right back through here, see, I can just give the idea of another edge of our rose, just like that, see? And, you know, is that too much? Just run it a couple times with your finger and you soften it out. So it all works. Here, let's push just a bit more. Here, just maybe a soft green back there. This is where I like to get really whimsical light, you know, just kind of let yourself go and start just moving the colors. Don't get too specific with it. Let's get soft light back here. Push that around a bit. Here. What is that going to be? What is it that, you know, like I said so many times, what is it that really, you know, I'm just going to push some color around there. Let's build up the front a bit here, just a touch, maybe an edge or so you see something like that. Now, what is it that really makes it a rose? you're going to take that real soft center color. Let's just put it right out here so it's soft. And the second that you start this swirling motion of that center and give it its bowl shadow, that's when the viewer will start to see it as a rose, especially if Dave doesn't stick his finger in it like I just did too much. There. That makes a nice soft little rose. And I'm just looking for the color more than anything else to carry that color back through there. Right off there, like that. You see that? Because I want your eye coming right up through there on that bird. Yeah, likes that. Just like some of that color traveling out there. You could do like little rosebuds. You can do whatever. Just soft little ideas there. Doesn't take much. Let's push that a little softer. Use the old paper towel. Create more of a ghost back there. Maybe a bit of a bowl. But you really don't need to do that much because, you know, here's the thing about painting. You'll get focused in on that rose, right? Because that's what you're working on. And you lose sight of the overall painting. So my advice to all my students is don't focus when you're on the outside of these roses like this, guys. Don't focus on that rose, making it look like a rose. You'll paint too much and it'll come forward. I focus always on my center of interest. I always return back to the bird. And I'm looking at the bird in relationship to everything. Or if I'm painting a group of roses, I'm looking at how is that one relating to the rest of the roses. I'm not painting that rose. Does that make sense? Because if you focus in on it, you'll start adding more colors. You'll start adding more definition to it, trying to make it look like a rose. It doesn't need very much to look like a rose. It'll look like a rose, okay? And that's the hardest thing to, you know, that to me is the hardest thing about being an artist, is to decide what is enough. And, you know, as heading towards this fine art, and as I become a little bit more on my artistic journey, I'm trying to find that edge when it's just enough that people can see it as that and then leave it and let that imagination take over. You know, because for years I painted way too much. Way, way, way too much. I'm going to push in just a touch more of that light right there. And a bit more of the eye ring light, just increasing that contrast, just a touch back there. That really grabs that. So I've got some really soft, you know, roses and stuff here in the painting. I could put out some more softer leaves if I wanted to, shapes and stuff. But overall, I kind of like this really you know, dreamy part of the painting here to that. I kind of like that. And, you know, do you put in lighter leaves, more? Let's go some more burnt sienna. You know how the younger leaves are more orange. Here, let's go more burnt sienna. Grab a little water into this and pull out some of those. Let's get more burnt sienna. A little bit cleaner, maybe even a bit of that violet into that. That's better. I like those whimsical kinds of things there. Real soft green and sienna here. Some soft ideas of leaves. Colors, move the colors, just move the colors through. That's what makes it pretty. And try not to do too much definition, because that takes away the imagination. I like how he says it robs the viewer of their imagination, so you don't want to do that. So we'll just add a little bit here, and I think I'm going to call that. I like that working up there of that bird and that dark. That's quite lovely. You know, I could do a bit of the coverts here on the bird, just a touch lighter violet. Maybe a bit of sienna in that, and negative paint those to put in a lighter, a little too light line here. Let's see about that. A little too dark. I'll find the color. You go get something to drink. I'll find the color. Come on back here. This is better. Okay, that's better. So we'll put that line of those coverts in, and then we'll put a little dark negative paint right up to them. There. That gives just a bit more. See, he's got that real soft line of, it's hard to tell in the camera there, but he's got that real soft line, those coverts there, so maybe a streak or two there, just to give a bit more. There, like that. Yeah, I like that. Let's pull that down. Down. Those would be crossing. Maybe a bit there, and I think I am going to call that. Maybe not quite yet. Just a. I don't always like to leave like a hole here, so sometimes I'll push like the color of a yellow rose. That's like he's covering up a bit of a yellow rose or something there, so you just don't see like a hole in there. Of course, you've got to see a bit of that stem through, because he's standing on that. There we go. That's a little bit better with the coloring and stuff. There you go. So you got that. Oh, and I had a nice question on the last bird I did, about westerns. Okay, this is a western that I did here for hanging in the gallery. It hangs in the next room over there. I call it Next in Line, and cowboy moving some small calves and stuff through the pens. Westerns. There are some of you that have asked me about westerns and stuff. Do you want to see a western? If you want to see a western, hit the comments down below. Tell me that you want to see a western and stuff, and we'll do maybe one with action. Western painters. I love the Western painters, and I've studied a lot of them from Remington all the way up to modern Western painters. And they have a total different way of putting their paintings together, adding, creating a story, creating action, creating a lot of things that they put together to help you and that really sell the painting, how to sell them. And so I did a lot of studying in those of the masters and what we do contemporary-wise in Westerns to help, sell some of these paintings. And so I have some online classes on Westerns, and we talk about that. And then there's one class that we're running right now called the Art of Seeing that we're going to be doing some Westerns in as well. That is a fantastic class. If you like a broad spectrum, artists, we like to learn a broad spectrum of techniques and ideas that helps you expand. That's where your ideas come from. A lot of people will say, well, how to paint a rose, and I tell them, well, go paint a seascape. What? Yes, because that helps you. They're all artistic techniques. It's all part of learning to see it, and they're all related. An artist should be able to do it all, and you become a better rose painter not by painting roses, but by doing other things. Painting a cow, that's going to cause you to look at the light, the coloring of that cow, and that will cause you to petal your rose different because you'll start to see things different. It's very important. One of the most important classes that I'm teaching right now, it's an ongoing class. It's going to last basically forever because it's called the Art of Seeing, teaching you how to see through different shapes and colors and everything. And we painting westerns, landscapes, flowers, portraits, animals, wildlife. We're painting it all. It's a fantastic class. Fantastic class. I recommend that one and color theory. Color theory, that's what you need. But if you want to see something with westerns, give us a comment, give us a like, and tell me down there what you want to see. All right, and we'll add that into our list about painting. And we're going to do the kookaburra too. I think what we'll probably do, because he's a larger bird, and we'll probably do him up on the easel, more of a portrait technique, ones that I usually do with my birds of prey and stuff, my owls and my eagles and hawks and stuff like that. So we won't do them down like this. We'll probably do them on, and I'll probably use long handle brushes and show you guys that type of technique, okay? All right, so that'll be next time. And also, I had the other one here. I really want to do this one too. There's a couple others. I really want to do one of the swallows. I found this one with the swallow. Probably not the bright green, but we'll do some swallow. I think would be really fun too. So a couple more. We'll do a few extra ones. Okay. All right. See you guys. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.